temperature is rising. Zelensky named Putin's greatest fear. What scenario is the president preparing for the meeting in Hungary? A diplomatic rupture due to a security threat. Berlin urgently recalls its ambassador. Europe is on the brink of a new conflict. The most secure messenger turned out to be just another fantasy. Now the data of all country residents can be bought online. Maybe yours too? 2 major Kremlin failures. Where did Putin miscalculate and who let him down again? A new record. The Great Depression is taking a rest. What are Russians addicted to en masse, and how dangerous is this addiction? Perhaps you, too, are already addicted? These and other key events are on the morning of Monday, October 20th. The most important and breaking news, exclusive details are on your radar. Next, a news release, up-to-date information on events in Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, and the world, earlier and more understandable than others. Everything you need to know today. Zelensky is going to Hungary. The Ukrainian president stated that he is ready to participate in the meeting in Budapest, where Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin may soon meet.
I honestly don't know if he is ready for real peace talks. Of course, sooner or later the moment will come. The time will come when sufficient pressure is exerted on him, and then he will be ready. He is afraid because he wants to remain president until his death, and for that, he needs public support. Therefore, he is counting on this war continuing. That is the main question.
Donald Trump, however, is currently emphasizing that the meeting with Putin is planned as a bilateral one, but we know that everything can change very quickly. Do you think it would be better if Zelensky unexpectedly barged into the meeting between Putin and Trump in Budapest? Share your thoughts in the comments. Sweden calls on Europe to activate war mode to preserve the peace. The defense minister's statement was one of the harshest warnings yet to Europe about the need to stop taking peace for granted and to take action before it is too late. To preserve peace, we must be prepared for a possible war, both morally and militarily. We must go into war mode to resolutely deter, defend, and maintain the peace. Peace is not a gift. It is something that must be defended every day. This peace is certainly not a gift, but the Swedish minister's call could be perceived as incitement to war, especially by Russian propaganda. We discussed this with an expert. Can his words really be interpreted that way?
Good question. Well, from my point of view, since around the beginning of 25 European countries, especially in the Baltic region, that is, Poland, and, well, Sweden, which was neutral for a long time, have always been prepared to defend themselves. Finland and the Baltic countries are in a kind of quasi-military mode. They will try to implement weapons programs, so to speak. They are currently conducting an assessment, analysis, and, so to speak, conscription of mobilization resources. Sweden, by the way, extended the conscription of officers to 70 years of age in the summer, as far as I remember. Well, that is, those people who have received officer ranks, they can theoretically conscript them into the army until they're 70. That's it. Well, that's how they conduct such events.
Hackers broke into the world's most secure messenger, according to its developers. All of its users' data was leaked. Information about a large-scale hack of the Max Messenger, which was positioned as a secure service for government agencies and businesses, has appeared on the darknet. The entire archive of records has even been put up for sale on a darknet forum. I have a complete dump of max.ru.ru, with exactly 46,203,590 lines. I still have VPN access to their Salesforce and other internal tools. It appears to be a Russian government messenger, and all the data is in Russian. Interestingly, the hacker's nickname is Anti, a word familiar to many, not only in Russia, but you can draw your own conclusions. Hackers got their hands on logins, phone numbers, email addresses, correspondence, and access tokens. Moreover, they claim that Max's internal systems remain open. On the Russian internet, Max is actively promoted as a messenger against fraudsters, promising military-grade data protection. Now, users appear to have become victims of the largest leak in the service's history. A diplomatic scandal has erupted. Germany recalls its ambassador amid anti-European rhetoric. The German Foreign Ministry announced the recall of its ambassador to Georgia. Formally, they summoned him to Berlin for consultations, but there's little guarantee he'll return. For months, the Georgian leadership has been fomenting hatred against the EU and Germany's personal ambassador. Consequently, the decision was made to recall Fischer for consultations and discussions on further steps. Fischer served as ambassador to Tbilisi since 2023 and has repeatedly publicly criticized the Georgian authorities for deviating from democratic standards and their commitment to European integration. The pretext for the escalation of tensions was the law on foreign agents, adopted by the Georgian parliament in the spring of 2024. The document essentially copies the Russian law on foreign agents and provoked a harsh reaction from Brussels, which warned that Tbilisi could lose its prospects for EU membership. Could Georgia become a mediator in the EU-Russia conflict? An expert was asked about this. No, Georgia's
current economic growth is ensured by its role as a transit hub for dual use. Goods to and from the Russian Federation. This is Georgia's main business. Secondly, there are these numerous displaced persons, or as they call themselves, relocators. Well, it's unlikely that they will undermine their own, so to speak, economic foundations.
China has pushed Russia out of its backyard. Central Asian trade turnover with the regions is already twice that of Moscow. While the Kremlin has been taking Kyiv in 3 days for 4 years, Beijing is quietly and methodically squeezing Russia out of Central Asia. According to Telegraph, China's trade turnover with Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and Kyrgyzstan will reach nearly $95 billion in 2024. This is twice as much as Russia's trade with the region, which totaled $45 billion. Just 25 years ago, the situation was reversed. Russia traded with Central Asian countries 5 times more actively than China. Today, Moscow's economic influence is rapidly waning, and Beijing is taking its place. China isn't wasting time on special operations. It's building roads, laying gas pipelines, and signing contracts for the supply of uranium, media, and oil. The region is becoming a key land corridor, a one-way corridor bypassing Russia. As the TG notes, Beijing is preparing for a possible blockade of sea routes in the event of a conflict with the United States. Therefore, control over transit through Central Asia is becoming a strategic priority for China. Moscow, preoccupied with war and sanctions, is losing even what it once considered its sphere of undisputed influence. The failure in the Middle East is also a factor. Putin failed to reach an agreement on maintaining Russian bases in Syria. Following the visit of the country's new leader, Ahmed Asher, to Moscow, it became clear that the future of Russian military facilities in Syria was in question. Damascus announced that the agreement signed under Bashar al-Assad to hand over the Khmeimim air base and the naval base in Tartus to Russia had been suspended and required revision. Syrian Foreign Minister Assad Shabani stated that the country intends to build relations with Moscow, quote, for the benefit of the Syrian people, and not at the expense of their sovereignty. According to a source, the fate of Bashar al-Assad himself, who has been taking refuge in Russia since his overthrow in December 2024, was also discussed in diplomatic circles at the meeting. Thus, despite Russian propaganda claims of an unwavering alliance and strategic partnership, Putin failed to maintain guarantees for a continued military presence. A worrying record. This fall, Russians bought nearly 2 million packages of antidepressants, a 4-year high. The fall of 2025 was the most depressive for Russia in recent years. According to pharmaceutical chains, in September alone, Russians purchased nearly 2 million packages of antidepressants worth almost 14 billion rubles. This is 33% more than last year. The largest sales growth was recorded in the Krasnoyarsk territory, Moscow, and the Moscow region. At the same time, demand for anxiolytics, anti-anxiety medications, and panic medications is also growing. This figure has been steadily increasing for the 3rd year in a row, especially among young Russians aged 15 to 28. Experts attribute the surge in psychotropic drug consumption to general social instability, mobilization pressure, and the worsening economic situation, noting that the country is literally medicating itself for anxiety. The U.S. Navy destroyed a drug submarine in the Caribbean Sea. 2 people were killed, but 2 survived. U.S. President Donald Trump released a video of a strike on a semi-submerged vessel, which he claimed was carrying a large shipment of drugs toward the United States. Footage posted on his social media account, True Social, shows the vessel being struck by munitions from the air. It was a great honor to destroy a massive submarine loaded with drugs en route to the United States along a known smuggling route. According to intelligence, it was primarily filled with fentanyl and other illegal substances. There were 4 narco-terrorists on board. 2 were killed, and the 2 survivors were handed over to authorities in Ecuador and Colombia. The president added that intelligence agencies estimate that if the submarine had reached the coast, up to 25,000 Americans could have died from the drugs. He also emphasized that not a single American service member was harmed in the operation. This is the 6th publicly confirmed attack by the U.S. Navy on vessels suspected of transporting drugs since early September. According to media reports, at least 27 people were killed as a result of these operations. The White House calls the campaign an armed conflict with drug cartels, but the Pentagon is not disclosing details of the operations. Thank you very much for watching to the end. Thank you for your trust. I look forward to your detailed comments, likes, and shares. It's important that we grow. That's all for now. Until next time, and good news to you.